My name's Mackenzie, and I started a GoFundMe for the adoptive mother of a nonverbal autistic child. The mother had lost her job because she wasn't able to find adequate care for this autistic child. So she really needed some help with living expenses, paying some back bills. So I launched a GoFundMe to help support them during this crisis. And we raised about $10,000 within just a couple of months. I think that the surprising thing was by telling a clear story and just really being very clear about what we needed, we had some really generous donations from people who were really moved by the situation that this family was struggling with.
GoFundMe is the world's #1 fundraising platform trusted by over 200 million people. Start your GoFundMe today at GoFundMe.com. That's GoFundMe.com. GoFundMe.com. This podcast is supported by GoFundMe.
Finding a hoodie that lasts through the season can be tough. The American Giant Classic Full Zip Hoodie is made to last a lifetime, so you can count on it year after year. Every American Giant piece is made in America and designed to last. No exceptions. The result is durable clothing that becomes part of your life. Snag the hoodie that will bring you comfort for life. The American Giant Classic Full Zip. Save 20% off your first order at american-giant.com when you use Staple 20 at checkout.
How would you like a 15% discount to my daily email, the stack of stuff, the show notes, discounts to the conference, all of that? All you need to do is text the word show to 33777. You'll get the annual subscription with a 15% discount to my daily email. You'll get the stack of stuff, the links to the show notes, discounts to the conference, and so much more. All you have to do is text the word show, SHOW, to 33777. Text show to 33777.
Welcome to the Eric Erickson Show podcast, Hour 1.
Hello and welcome. It is Eric Erickson here across the United States. Delighted to have you with me. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, I would be happy to have you. Don't forget to text Eric, E-R-I-C-K, to 33777. I want to go back to the story I was talking about yesterday. We had this very interesting story in Tablet Magazine, and it was a story about crime. If you don't know, in Park Slope, New York, it's probably the most progressive part of the most progressive section of New York. New York is in boroughs, you got the Bronx and Queens and Brooklyn and Harlem and Staten Island and Manhattan. And did I forget any of them? I think that's it. Maybe there's one I forgot. Brooklyn is where the hipsters live. If you will recall, in 2016, Hillary Clinton ran her campaign out of Park Slope. Robbie Mook, her campaign manager, who has not been heard from since, which tells you everything you need to know about how the Russians and James Comey didn't actually steal the election. He ran a terrible campaign. Bill Clinton advised Hillary Clinton that she needed to campaign in Wisconsin and Western Pennsylvania, that she was losing the blue-collar voters. Those are his people. He grew up in a trailer park in Arkansas. He knows blue-collar voters. That's how he won in 1992. You pay attention to what is often considered or called an underclass of American voters. The rich folks get the attention, not the poor and the lower middle class. And Hillary Clinton's team, led by Robbie Mook, insisted they were going to win the election and transform America to look like people like them. And so the Robbie Mooks of the world and the Clinton campaign, they wanted to focus on the Park Slope hipsters. They wanted to focus on the far left. They wanted to focus on the wokes. Story in Tablet Magazine yesterday. That's Park Slope. That's where it came from. It is a bubble inside a bubble. And in Park Slope, a man was mugged. Jewish man. Being Jewish isn't really relevant He's white. That's the relevant part. And he's mugged. He presses charges against the mugger. And his friends in Park Slope, his good white friends in Park Slope, are horrified that he would press charges against a black man for mugging him. So much so, this guy who's a liberal decides he's had enough and he moves to Miami. There's a growing resurgence of Jews living in Miami. It's always been the jokes about the wealthy Jewish families who live in Miami. And there's a large enclave down there, and it's growing. And you can understand why they're fleeing New York. It's not just the piles of snow and the Islamic communist mayor. It is the progressives in New York City don't think that people are individually responsible for their crimes. And this is a growing phenomenon in the United States. It's actually come over from Canada, where in Canada now, if you are a native, and by native, they don't mean a long time born in Canada resident, they mean an Indian, an American Indian. They like to call themselves Native Americans. They're American Indians. Canadian, the Eskimos. If they commit a crime now, in Canada, judges can reduce their sentence based on how much oppression from the colonizers they have experienced. And we're doing it in this country in progressive enclaves. George Soros did fund, and now Alex Soros has continued to fund progressive prosecutors. What's his name in Philadelphia? Larry, what's his name? He is one of those Soros-supported progressive prosecutors who will let a young black man out of prison for assault and battery and abuse of a white person because the poor black kid had a hard life. A similarly situated white kid, though, gonna go to jail. There's actually a story Philip called to my attention of a up-and-coming hockey player. The up-and-coming hockey player's name is Gavin McKenna. He's from Canada, and he has gone to Penn State. Probably the top recruit in the NHL draft. That's what he's expected to be. He's been arrested and charged with felony assault, aggravated assault, and misdemeanor simple assault, plus other offenses for disorderly conduct and harassment. He got in a bar fight. He was defending his mother. That, by the way, was left out of several of the press reports. He was actually protecting and defending his mother. He's 18. He punched a 21-year-old who was harassing the family, dislocated the guy's jaw, and now he's going to be charged with felony aggravated assault and might destroy his entire career for the audacity of defending his mom. The progressive prosecutors want to teach this kid a lesson, destroy his career in the process for defending his mom. You see this time and time again. You see this around the country, these progressive prosecutors who have decided that the bad guys are the victims. Now, you've got to understand also what's happening here, and the Republicans need to really start pushing back on this. This actually is a theological view. You don't recognize it as a theological view, but, everyone has a theology. Even the atheists have a theology. What is a theology? It's a theory of God, and if you don't have God, you have yourself. You're worshiping yourself, and it ultimately is a theology. You have a theory of God, and you therefore derive your theories of justice from this. And the Marxist worldview, the theological worldview of the Marxists, is that you and I are not individuals. We are members of groups, and judgment comes for the group, not for the individual. Collective judgment. It is collectivism, and it is a theology. It's not just a secular worldview. It's a theology. And so the young black gangbanger in New York City who mugs a white man, he is from a class of people. And the problem is that his people are the oppressed people. And the white Jewish man is from privilege. He is the oppressor. Therefore, if someone attacks him, he's got to take it because he has no moral worth because he is from the oppressor class. If it sounds insane, it is, but that's what's playing out. You see it in Los Angeles, you see it in Chicago, you see it in San Francisco, although less so in San Francisco. San Francisco finally had enough. San Francisco is not swinging to the right, but they feel like they're swinging to the right. When they went so far left, any little movement to the right is considered a hard swing to the right. San Francisco has decided, you know what, it's time to abandon this collective theory of punishment. We need to punish the individuals who are causing the crimes. The mayor there and the district attorney, remember that they threw out Bill Ayers, godson or whatever, or son or whatever. It's this far left prosecutor that they elected with George Soros money, who the San Franciscans had enough of him because he wasn't prosecuting anybody other than white-collar criminals. They threw him out. But in New York, Alvin Bragg has been very insistent. You can prosecute Daniel Penny for keeping people safe on a subway, but you can't prosecute the insane criminals who are mugging people on the subways. Into this, we head to the midterm elections. I'll get into it later, but Ross Douthat has a piece of the New York Times, and he's worth listening to. And I know there will be a visceral reaction from a lot of people who are very into politics, but Ross Douthat says there's a dirty little secret that the online conservative influencers don't want you to know. It's that the president is losing the country. I want to tell you a secret, Douthat, right? It's one that most conservatives on the internet don't want you to know. A year into his second presidency, Donald Trump has lost the country. A majority of voters believe the country is worse off today than it was a year ago. Approval ratings are at 37%, the lowest of his second term. The grand coalition he united to defeat Kamala Harris has evaporated, and all of this was predictable. From the first days of Doge through the debacle in Minneapolis, the Trump administration has consistently governed as if swing voters aren't part of the coalition. And now, guess what? They're not. But swing voters swing. By the way, Douthat is right. You don't want to believe he's right. You want to think there's no way the Democrats can get elected in November. The warning signs have been there for a while. The warning signs keep growing. Douthat is right, but it's also swing voters swing. You can bring them back to your side, and capitalizing on the insanity of the Democrats is the way to do it. And frankly, the way the Democrats are operating on the issue of immigration is going to help the GOP. The Democrats at this very moment in Washington, D.C. are doubling down on defunding ICE. In fact, they're mad at Chuck Schumer for suggesting they will fund ICE. Democrats in the House want Chuck Schumer out of the United States Senate negotiations on ICE because they want to shut it down. They want to shut down the Department of Homeland Security. Even though ICE is already funded through 2028, it'll only affect TSA and FEMA and the Coast Guard. It will not affect Border Patrol and ICE. But to the extent Douthat's right, it is that the president of the United States needs to come across as more reasonable. And by the way, I think it's changing. Yesterday, he gave an interview and he suggested that they could actually use a softer touch on deportations. He's right. They could. The president and the party are going to lose the country unless he shifts. And I just keep going back to his first term where the economy was on fire and he wasn't doing all the stuff he's doing right now. There was some ideological core of conservatism, and those who surrounded him in his first term, they weren't loyal, though. And now the people who are loyal to him, they're loyal to him, but they have competing ideas and factions. Look at Kristy Noem and Border Patrol and all this, but look at crime. There is a unifying faction on the right to clean up cities, New Orleans, Memphis, Washington, D.C. People are safe there. The progressive mental illness has made Americans less safe. Trump has the solution to make people safe again. I would encourage the president and the GOP to double down on that. And actually on immigration, have the softer touch, Mr. President. I think you're right. As much as I want everybody rounded up and thrown out the mass deportations, I put up a video last night of a man. He is an American citizen. He is Hispanic. He's been arrested twice by ICE in deportation roundups. And the first time ICE or Homeland Security said he wasn't detained for being Hispanic, he was detained for blocking Border Patrol agents from trying to round up actual illegal aliens. He was interfering in the arrests. You know, they dropped the charges because video came out from the scene that showed he wasn't stopping Border Patrol from rounding up illegal aliens. He was stopping them from entering a construction zone where they could have gotten hurt. Homeland Security lied to us. It's like the story I told you yesterday about the man who emailed Homeland Security, and then immediately Homeland Security filed a warrant to seek his information. They said it was part of a criminal probe. It wasn't. It was a lie. We should expect our government on both sides to be honest, and Kristy Noem's Homeland Security has not been honest. It's another reason she should be fired. If you bring back the integrity and the honesty, Mr. President, you're going to mitigate the damage in November. The California Democrats won a big case in the Supreme Court yesterday. No dissents. They're going to be able to do this. In Virginia today, they announced a 10-0 reapportionment map that will wipe out all Republican members of the House of Representatives in Virginia. The courts are fighting back in Virginia, saying that they handled it improperly. But, Mr. President, you've got to figure out how to mitigate some damage. We don't want the Democrats in charge. And the best way to mitigate the damage is to recognize that swing voters do exist, and you can't win in November just by mobilizing your coalition. There aren't enough. You got to take those people into account.
This podcast is sponsored by Talkspace.
Last year, I went through many different life changes. I needed to take a pause and examine how I was feeling in the inside to better show up for the ones who need me to be my best version of myself.
When you're navigating life's changes, Talkspace can help. Talkspace is the #1 rated online therapy, bringing you professional support from licensed therapists and psychiatry providers that you can access anytime, anywhere.
Living a busy life, navigating a long-distance relationship, becoming a first-step father, Talkspace made all of those journeys possible. I could speak with my therapist in the office. I could speak with my therapist in the comfort of my home. I was never alone.
Talkspace works with most major insurers, and most insured members have a $0 copay. No insurance, no problem. Now get $80 off your first month with promo code SPACE80 when you go to Talkspace.com. Match with a licensed therapist today at Talkspace.com. Save $80 with code SPACE80 at Talkspace.com.
My friend Barry Loudermilk has announced he is not going to run for re-election. This is kind of notable. I remember when he first ran for Congress, and it actually wasn't a whole long time ago, and he's decided to step aside. That's kind of a more and more of a warning sign, although I don't think he would say it because he's a good team player, that the Republican majority days are numbered. When you have guys like this who, given his tenure, would be in a higher leadership position next election, and he's decided not to stick around, well, that suggests the Republican might have a Democratic wave of opposition coming. And I will tell you, the polling data out there right now does not look that bad for the GOP. I mentioned this yesterday. The generic ballot is only a +5 for the Democrats. It should be +8 or more for a big blowout, but that the fact that you've now got about 30 some odd Republicans in the House saying they're done doesn't bode well. And I realize that there are the diehard activists out there who are so into it. And they're like, well, no, that just means they're tired. And now we get young blood and we'll have younger members of Congress. No, y'all, I've been in this game a very long time. When you have that many members of a single party walking away, they know that doom is coming. And doom can be forestalled and mitigated, and it's what we need to do as a party. And I don't know who's with the president giving him advice, but maybe it's time to not listen to Stephen Miller and listen to someone who can actually win elections for the GOP. Possibly do something. Mr. President, please, because mitigating the Democratic, I mean, people don't like they hate the Democrats. They're just feel like the GOP needs some accountability right now because they went too hard, too fast in one direction. So help, please, Mr. President. Now, let me tell you about the Eden Pure Thunderstorm. You can get 3 of them for less than $200. They're an air purifier, and you can get 3 of them. So they get rid of dust, pollen, They get rid of pet dander. But where the Eden Pure Thunderstorm shines is it generates plasma. So as the air flows through it, all of the bacteria, I should say 99.9%, the lawyers are persnickety, of bacteria and viruses also get obliterated by the plasma. And then it generates ozone. The ozone is like odor bleach. It goes where you can't go to wipe out odors at their source. So you get the odor bleach out there, the ozone, and it eliminates odors, smoke odors, dirty diaper odors, litter box odors, cooking odors, wet, musty odors, damp odors, you name it. It wipes them out. So you get 3 of these things and you save $200 at EdenPureDeals.com. That's the website, EdenPureDeals.com. Then you put in the discount code ERIC3, ERICK3. And you'll get 3 of them. And they got a money-back guarantee if they don't work for you. But I'll tell you, they work. I had one with me in my hotel last night. They're small. They're portable. I keep in my travel bag. And they just work to eliminate odors. I didn't have to use mine, thankfully, last night. But I used it on the back porch just the other day. EdenPureDeals.com, the discount code ERIC3. When we come back, the story I had wanted to avoid, and I just can't avoid it at this point. We've got to talk about the layoffs at the Washington Post. It's relevant to you.
Flowers die in 3 days. Matching underwear from MeUndies? That's a gift that lasts. MeUndies creates matching prints for couples and friends, same adorable designs in different cuts for each of you. All made from their signature ultra-modal fabric that feels impossibly soft. With 30 million pairs sold and 90,000 5-star reviews, MeUndies matching prints are the perfect gift. Valentine's Day is February 14th, so don't wait. Get exclusive deals up to 50% off at MeUndies.com/comfort, code COMFORT. That's MeUndies.com/comfort, code COMFORT.
Hello, America. The phone number is 877-973-7425. Should you wish to be on the program, let's go to the phones. Calling from Miami, Florida. Suede, I got to tell you, the name Suede in Miami, Florida is probably the most appropriate name.
That I appreciate your opinion.
Oh, you there?
Yes, sir. Can you hear me?
I can hear you.
First off, I want to say thank you for your opinions. I greatly appreciate your outlook on things. Basically, my question is, as somebody in their early 30s, a blue-collar worker, I heard you say yesterday that one side's evil and one side's stupid. I think both sides are equally as stupid and equally as evil. What would be your advice for somebody that is a little cynical about the political times we're in?
Oh, that's a great question. And so just so you understand where the stupid and evil comes from, it's actually a quote from Everett Dirksen, who was the Republican leader of the Senate years ago. There's a monument to him in Washington, D.C., and his quote was that there are 2 parties in Washington, the stupid party and the evil party. Every once in a while, they get together and do something that is both stupid and evil, and the press heralds it as a bipartisan accomplishment. So you think you're cynical. That's the leader of the Republicans in Washington in the 1950s, and that was his level of cynicism. That the parties get together, do something stupid and evil, and the press calls it bipartisan. So what do you do?
So nothing's changed.
Yeah, nothing's changed. But so, Suede, politics in this country is how we advance our society. There've got to be issues that you care about, and you may not align perfectly with either party. But the way to get things done is if you don't align with either party, find an outside organization that actually cares about the issues you care about and get involved with it and work through that organization to push both parties on your issue. If you find a party that you're more comfortable with, even though you don't agree with everything, get in the party apparatus and persuade the people within the party at the local level that you're right. I would not sit on the sidelines. I understand the temptation to sit on the sidelines, and frankly, I think some people need to sit on the sidelines because they start treating politics like their religion, and that's unhealthy.
Right.
But at the same time,
I absolutely agree.
If you want to improve society, you improve society in 2 ways. You look after your community, work with your homeless shelter, work with your food bank, find areas in your community to improve. And the other way is you get involved in politics. And whether we like it or not in this country, we have two parties, the Republicans and the Democrats, who tend to get elected. The other parties don't. So you used to be able to go into a party and had pretty broad reach. And I would actually argue that these days the Republican Party has more intellectual diversity than the Democrats because the progressives try to silence anyone to the right of them. But still, there's censoriousness on the right,
its own tail.
Yeah, go say that again.
It feels like a snake eating its own tail on both sides.
Yeah, it does. And if you want to stop it from eating its own tail, sometimes you've actually got to be in the mix and be a voice of reason within the party. I will tell you this, though. If you are cynical, I would caution you to dive into party politics because that tends to increase cynicism. What I would tell you to do instead is there an issue that you care about?
There's a lot of issues I care about. I mean, we can start on the trains and the kids, right? We can use that as an example. How can we sexualize children when they don't even know the idea of it? You know, it just seems all a little crazy.
It does.
You know what I mean? It's. I mean, I've recently gotten into church. I've found my own community. And sometimes it's just hard not to want to sit on the sidelines and not want and just shrug your shoulders and be like, nobody is on my side. Really.
All right.
They're just for themselves.
So now you've said something. You've gotten into church. Swade, that's where you need to be. Don't be in politics. Be in the church. You're going to improve your community more by being in church and helping your church work in the community. And that's going to change the politics of the community for the better. You not being actively in politics, you're in church. Put your time and energy into your church community and the community around you through your church, and that's going to change your community. And you will see the politics and the faith more and more working together over time if you do that. Seek the welfare of the community. We politics is a means to an end. It's not the only means to that end of an improved society. Working inside the church apparatus is a great way to do it, and you do that just by being present in church. You don't have to be a leader in your church. You get involved in your church and push your church to be involved in the community, and you're going to start making political change just by virtue of the hearts and minds you change in the community.
Okay, Thank you. And one more quick question, since you like golf. Have you seen the new TGL Golf, which is the indoor golf?
I have. I actually want to go down there and watch one in person.
Me too. I hope we get the same tickets for the same day.
Yeah, man. Yeah, that would be fantastic. I really like the putting. So for those of you who don't know what Swade and I are talking about, Rory McIlroy and Tiger Woods came up with this new indoor golf idea. And it's like big golf simulator, but it's mind-blowing how big it is. They hit off real grass. The putting green can be rotated and manipulated. All the courses are wild, and they play on teams. It's a spectacle. Although the ratings are down this year, I hope that they rebound.
Well, it's easier to watch. It's easier to watch if you have some younger kids that are into sports, but golf takes 3 days and it is quite boring. You have a lady that says quiet. In TGL, you got guys heckling, you got guys screaming. It's easier on the fans. It's easier to watch. But I greatly appreciate your advice, and I'll definitely take it to heart.
Yeah, do that. Thanks very much, Swade. Thanks for the call. And by the way, go Atlanta Drive. That is the local TGL team in Atlanta. Justin Thomas is on there. Billy Horschel's on there. It is a fun thing to watch, and you can watch an entire golf tournament in like 2 hours, as opposed to the 3 days it takes for the PGA. Although the PGA is rebounding, Koepka's coming back. It looks like some of the others might as well. Who knows what Bryson will do? My advice to him was, you don't need LIV. They need you. Either they pay you what you are wanting, which is like $500 million or something, or go back to YouTube. You're making a killing in YouTube. But also get back on the PGA Tour. People want to see you there. Now, we got to talk about the Washington Post. I have been hesitant to talk about the Washington Post layoffs as a story. It's a very big story online, but it doesn't really affect all of you, except it does. There's an angle with which to talk about this, and it's a larger issue. There are lots of reporters online who are being very belittling of Jeff Bezos, unwilling to lose money on the Washington Post. What you need to understand happened with the Washington Post is they turned it into a vehicle of progressive fever dreams, reliably defending Democrats. Remember, bringing back the democracy dies in the darkness, quote, filling the pages with idiots like Jen Rubin and others. It turns out much of their international press team was being paid under the table by Qatar. They all got fired when that was discovered. And it just became a regular run-of-the-mill progressive vehicle. It didn't stand out. It didn't innovate. It didn't do anything much. And then they decided to make the editorial board less reliably, predictably woke progressive. And the progressives who they were catering to canceled their subscriptions, which just caused a spiral for the paper. And now all the progressives think if they would just return it to what it was and placate us at a time it wasn't making money, it would work. And the National Press Corps is an inordinate amount of coverage of the layoffs at the Washington Post. By the way, there were layoffs at the Atlanta Journal-Constitution, which got very little national press coverage. The layoffs at the Washington Post did, in large part because progressives thought it was illegal. Side note, for those of you in Georgia, you should note the layoffs at the AJC didn't get all of that attention, in large part because while you can complain about the biases of the AJC, and I think they're aware of some of them, it's not as considered a vehicle of progressivism, even at the regional level, like the Washington Post was. Now, the issue here, though, is do you know how many people were laid off in this country last year? 1.17 million Americans were laid off last year. And to start this year, by the way, there have been a number of layoffs this year. In fact, I saw a story this morning. Where is it? I think Philip put it in the stack of stuff. Yes, here it is. This is from CNBC. Layoffs in January were the highest to start a year since 2009. U.S. employers announced 108,435 layoffs for the month, up 118% from the same period a year ago and 205% from December 2025. The total marked the highest for any January since 2009. At the same time, companies announced just 5,306 new hires, also the lowest January since 2009. Now, one of the reasons that we are relying on this private data instead of the government data is the government announced today that they're going to delay the jobs report because of the government shutdown. They're still compiling data. But we have from outside surveys that we have more layoffs to start this year than any year since 2009. And last year, 1.17 million Americans were laid off from their jobs. There has been more coverage of the Washington Post 300 layoffs yesterday by the American Press Corps than all 1,180,000 jobs lost last year. The press in this country is so much more focused on itself as a news angle. Think about this. When the president argues with a reporter, the entire press circles the wagon and springs into action and makes the story about the president attacking the press. Not the rest of the points. The press is now vilifying Jeff Bezos for refusing to subsidize members of the press. The Washington Post had 13 reporters and editors on just the climate beat. 13. The press actually, the Washington Post actually had a reporter who was dedicated to covering race and racism in America. And in fact, according to some of the reporters complaining about that person getting laid off, they were told that coverage of racism drove traffic. The outrage clicks. Y'all, the American Press Corps is deeply broken, and the economics of it are really undoing the press. The amount of people in the press who do not understand they're in a for-profit business, that they think that there's a stewardship commitment to the Washington Post. There's no stewardship commitment. The Washington Post is a for-profit enterprise. it has an obligation to make money. And just because Jeff Bezos is a billionaire doesn't mean he's going to spend the money the way you wished him to spend the money. The Washington Post made a series of business errors over time as the New York Times was growing and innovating. The Washington Post was not. Also, what I find extremely notable is the massive number of people in the press who have great ideas for the Washington Post, and all those ideas amount to bringing back the progressives who have long ago left the Washington Post, been fired, laid off, or otherwise left. That's not exactly a solution to the problem, but the people in the press don't know, and they're bad for business, actually. They're bad for business. They don't understand it. But for you and me, as people online, they're still talking about it. I woke up this morning and they were still, number one topic was the Washington Post layoffs. It doesn't affect you or me, except the fact that all the conversations are run from conversations about how the press is impacted by the news. So 1.18 million Americans are laid off last year, and the press gave lip service to it. No in-depth coverage of it, and you would think they would want to do it to attack Donald Trump, but there was no angle with which to insert the press into the coverage, so the press chose to barely cover the topic, and that is the problem with our American press corps. You can't trust them because not only are they super myopic, they do not have anything to say about any subject unless they can make it about themselves. They actually need an intervention. They lack introspection. They can't actually self-analyze why their industry is dying. They want to blame everyone else and not themselves. No one in the press wants to look in the mirror and say, what did I do to cause this problem? Instead, it's you. And, you know, the fallback today is that, well, the Washington Post switched to being conservative-oriented, and conservatives don't read. It's also why there are so many left-wing publications taking off on Substack, is conservatives don't read. And again, it's all excuse-making to avoid having to look in the mirror and ask, what did I do to deserve this? What did I do to cause this? And the press lacks that capability. Hello there. Welcome. It is Eric Erickson here. My goodness.
Shipping, billing, admin, payroll, marketing. You're managing all the things. So why waste time sending important documents the old-fashioned way? Mail and ship when you want, how you want with Stamps.com. Print postage on demand 24/7 and schedule pickups from your office or home. Save up to 90% with automated rate shopping. That's why over 1 million small businesses trust Stamps.com. Go to Stamps.com and use code PODCAST to try Stamps.com risk-free for 60 days.
Someone called the show. They did not get through, and they believe that I am covering up for my friends in the Jeffrey Epstein files because I won't go wall-to-wall coverage of the Epstein files like a bunch of people you've never heard of on social accounts you've never heard of. Ladies and gentlemen, I have a confession to make. I am in the Jeffrey Epstein files. I am. I'm in the Jeffrey Epstein files several times. He apparently subscribed to some political newsletters, and those newsletters quoted me. So if you search the Jeffrey Epstein files, my name comes up like 3 or 4 times in emails that Jeffrey Epstein got, like a Washington Post summation of the news, conservative radio host Eric Erickson says, that sort of stuff. But I'm in there. My claim to fame. Am I covering up? No, this is the problem, is that there never was a there. And you've got a lot of people who are spending a lot of time. It turns out Jeffrey Epstein himself was the biggest abuser of the young women. And so, no, all the conspiracy theories. And so those of you who are convinced that there's some dark, sinister stuff there, you're never going to be convinced otherwise. And I don't really care to try to convince you. You're not going to believe anything I say. They've released 5+ million documents now, including the names of victims who weren't supposed to be released, including nude pictures that included some of the victims that weren't supposed to be released. People want to read into this however they want to read into it. And I'm not going to waste my time because I've told you all along that there was no way that people were ever going to be satisfied. And there really is no there, that Jeffrey Epstein was a monster and had a lot of wealthy friends who knew he was a monster and liked to still be friends with the monster. And Jeffrey Epstein is now more likely than not roasting for eternity. This hour of the program brought to you by Van Allen Golf. I was at my golf club last night, and one of the guys at the golf club was like, man, I have used their putter. It's phenomenal. I need one. Yes, you do too. VanAllenGolf.com. Text the word golf to 33777. I need to tell you guys about Incogni. Gotten some questions about this. The Incogni is spelled INCOGNI. We bought a car a while back, and clearly the car company sold our information or put it out there, and I have been inundated with spam calls, nonstop spam calls. And with Incogni, they're starting to reduce the number of spam calls I'm getting because they go to the data brokers and they wipe out the information. If you go to Incogni, and again, it's incogni.com/Eric, ERICK. Go to incogni.com/Eric. You can sign up and save 60% off their regular price, and they will start working to send takedown notices to get your information off the internet. Incogni.com/Eric. Incogni.com/Eric. Start making yourself more private on the internet with Incogni's help.
Marketing is hard. But I'll tell you a little secret. It doesn't have to be. Let me point something out. You're listening to a podcast right now, and it's great. You love the host. You seek it out and download it. You listen to it while driving, working out, cooking, even going to the bathroom. Podcasts are a pretty close companion. And this is a podcast ad. Did I get your attention? You can reach great listeners like yourself with podcast advertising from Libsyn Ads. Choose from hundreds of top podcasts offering host endorsements, or run a pre-produced ad like this one across thousands of shows to reach your target audience in their favorite podcasts with Libsyn Ads. Go to libsynads.com, that's LIBSYN, ads.com today.